Al,
Yes.
this is going to be a joke no one is going to get, but
Okay.
you and I, because of just what we talked about. But speaking of dad murder, we got a show to talk about today.
It is true, we do.
You know, just dad murder on the mind.
Yeah. Definitely. This is the most recent season of JoJo, right?
Yes. Everyone's been asking for part 6, and they gave it to us finally.
They did.
We haven't even talked about part 5 yet. We're just skipping it. Welcome to this week's episode of the Season Later Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about anime, video games, and manga, and sometimes dad murder, I guess.
Sometimes dad murder, just occasionally.
I am Jared, joined as always by Doc Allen Ladium.
Hello.
This is episode 198.
Yep.
It's a lot of episodes. A lot of dang old episodes.
We've done a lot of episodes, and it's funny that you say dangle since that was how we started this.
It's true.
Anyway.
4 years ago, over 4 years ago now,
Oof.
this week. But we're gonna talk about an anime that just aired.
Uh-huh.
That is an adaptation from a video game
Mm-hmm.
that we talked about 13 months ago
Oh, wow.
on episode 142.
Man, I have fallen in so deep since that episode.
It's true.
Oof.
I believe probably all of the story stuff that you looked up in that episode
It's already out now.
has already occurred now. So like you're already in all of that stuff, which is
It's the future, Zura.
it is the future Zero. So yeah, we have talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
But now I watched the anime version of it.
Yep.
Because you were like, oh my god, this is a thing. And I was like, I'll watch that, sure. Why not?
Why not?
I know how weird this story is supposed to get, so that should be fun. And boy, howdy, does it get weird.
Yep.
Of course, we're talking about the adaptation of Mr. Love Queen's Choice.
Mm-hmm. We sure are.
We sure are.
I'm
Oh
so
boy.
hype. I'm so hype.
So yeah, this is an adaptation of the mobile game.
Mm-hmm.
Where they took the story from that and tried to piece it together in a way that makes it into an anime.
Yeah. And I mean, it's an interesting thing, and I think we've discussed this a little bit, but it is an otome. But the thing is, with the main story of the game, they don't actually lean into any of the main guys as having a canonical romance or anything, or you don't have routes. You just have a main story, and the romance comes in side dates and text messages and phone calls and that kind of thing.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong, it essentially comes from the cards you get.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, the karma is how you unlock the phone calls and the dates, and their version of Twitter is called Moments, and that can show up just depending on your activity throughout the week. But there are also some that are tied to the cards as well.
So if you're looking for that kind of thing from the show, that's not here.
You're not gonna get that.
That is definitely not here. That is a thing I think that's kind of difficult when you're trying to adapt one of these kinds of games, specifically a route-based, adventure game,
Mm-hmm.
such as a dating sim, such as an otome game,
Mm-hmm.
where it's do you devote time to doing all of the routes and kind of subjecting the story to being lesser, or do you forego the routes to focus more on the main storyline?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've seen that with Code Realized, where they basically focused in on one dude
Mm-hmm.
and surrounded that with the overarching story as well. And then in here they're basically just hey, these dudes are here because they're main characters in the game, but they're here.
And they're all obviously in love with her.
And she's just cool, whatever.
Basically, yes.
I'm here to get revenge.
I got stuff to do. I got stories to tell.
Yes.
So, and I mean, it's not too different from how she is in the game, because she's kind of an idiot in the game. At least the good thing in the anime is she's not a huge blubbering dumb. like she is in the game.
That was one of the things I that was surprising to me when coming into this, because you had talked about how like, oh, the main character of Mr. Love is an idiot.
An idiot.
And then in here, like,
she's pretty competent.
She is very competent in like a way that is very much the opposite of what the game would have you think.
Yes. It was a good change in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's infuriatingly dumb at points. Often. Most of the time.
And I don't think you could have the story that they tell in this anime work if that was how her character was. So I think they had to kind of fix it in a way that like made it work better with the story they're telling, and like it's a change that works for the better throughout like the entirety of the narrative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
also I like how they decided not
her.
to name her. They decided to name her, quote unquote, where her name is Watashi, which is just Japanese for I. Which is hilarious.
It's really funny.
So like they never mention her name, they never call her by a name or anything in the actual story, but in the credits that's how they credit her, like her voice actress. So it's just like, that's real good. That's real really dumb funny. And real good.
That's really funny. I mean, it's a good way to get around it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, that's the whole point, is that like you name the main character.
Yeah, she's the player character. So
yeah, it's not like a Code Realize where like Cardia has a canonical name.
Right.
She just put your name here.
Yes.
Or something of that extent.
Yeah.
But yeah, big improvement that she's not a huge dumb this time. But like you said, it would be very hard to tell the story that there's telling, like with her being such an idiot, because because they're removing some of the romance elements of it, she kind of has to be the main driver of the plot.
Yeah.
And so you can't really have a huge dumb doing that.
It would be very weird.
Yes. It would basically look like she was just like accidentally stumbling into doing the right thing over and over and over and over.
Like it becomes more of like a comedy series in like that aspect instead of like this very dramatic story that they're trying to tell.
Like a Forrest Gump type situation.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd make that comparison.
I mean, there's a lot of comparisons you can make with this show in particular.
I mean, you wrote a piece about it.
I did. I wrote a piece like because we were just either we were watching it together or I was catching up. I think I might have been catching up, but like it was one of the later episodes, and I was just like watching it and thinking, and I was like, this series is just like a modern day JoJo.
Yeah.
Like it's JoJo set in a modern time essentially, because it's just like how over the top and ridiculous the story is. You know, these dudes just have powers that are akin to the stands, or just, you know, superpowers in general and whatnot. And it's just, it has just that same kind of pacing that JoJo kind of presents to you, where it's just like, what's the ridiculous thing that's going to happen this time or this week, or what's going to happen next week that's even more ridiculous?
And I mean, they have stands basically.
Yeah.
And also 3 of the Japanese voice actors are in JoJo.
Yeah, so that definitely does not help, or that helps the comparison a little bit in a way that, like, you know, obviously I'm not intending, but like, yeah. It's very funny in that regard.
Because Victor, we had young Joseph.
Correct.
Gavin's is he Josuke?
I will look it up.
Okay, because there's Joseph, Josuke, and Kakyoin that are all voiced by one of these guys. I know the Joseph one because we made the joke that Joseph in English and also in Japanese is Victor.
I will say that if you just look up Mr. Love,
you
just get Mr. Love. Nothing else. Yeah. So Gavin is Josuke.
Okay. Which makes sense because you kind of got like the bad boy delinquent type thing.
Except he's a cop.
Well, I mean, yeah, he sucks. Not Josuke. He's delightful.
He's a good boy.
Let me clarify.
This doesn't go into like the other characters or like a lot of the other characters, so like there could be others. And
yeah, like I said,
I'm not entirely sure.
He is Kakyoin, so
yes,
because the other one is Kira's voice actor, and he is Victor Frankenstein in Code Realize.
Yes, that is the thing.
Yeah. So anyway, we do have our main dudes. We have Victor, Gavin, Kiro, and Lucian. I don't know how to say his name. I'll never know how to say his name. They call him Simon in this. which is funny because
Simone.
there's times where it's just like it says Simon on the screen, and they just put like a little subtitle. It's like Lucian.
Yeah, so like I think it's the smart idea because like obviously the fan base you're going for with this game
Yeah.
is going to know these characters by a specific name.
Yes.
So just like localizing it for that audience, I think is the right move. Like I know Crunchyroll, when they did the Ace Attorney anime, tried to like balance the two and do like subs for both,
Ooh.
where one was localized and one was like for like the Japanese names and everything, and it never worked out quite well because like one you would go to watch the episode and like half the time one of the subs just wouldn't work.
Oh God.
So it was a big pain in the butt to do that. So I think it's smarter just to be like, we're just going to go with the names these that English speaking people would know.
Yeah, and I mean like anybody who's super deep in the game knows their Japanese names at least.
Mm-hmm.
Some people actually know their Chinese names too. Like I think Gavin's name is Bai, Bai. But Victor is Zen. Lucian is Simon. Kiro is Kira.
Big change.
Big change. And Gavin is Haku. So those are their Japanese names. Anyway, you got your boys here. And they're in motion now instead of just standing there looking at you.
They still can just stand there and look at you, though.
I mean, they kind of do at times. But yeah, we're following essentially the first like roughly 17 chapters of the game.
Mm-hmm.
They diverge at the end of the anime, which is fair. Because I was very curious how they were going to end it, because I thought that if they ended it at chapter 18, which is where it looked like it was going, I'm like, kind of a weird place to end it because there's a very big cliffhanger there, and like there's no guarantee they're gonna get a second season with something like this. Also,
right.
It'd be kind of a downer point. Like that chapter ends in a rough way. So it'd be kind of a terrible way to end the anime that's like supposed to be romantic.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh well, somebody's dead. Cool. All right, bye guys. I don't know if we're gonna get a second season.
It is interesting though, because like they, for clarification, they do a anime original ending.
Yes.
But also there's a lot of loose ends that they just leave.
Yes.
In case that they get picked up for a second season.
Mm-hmm. Which would lead into the storyline that goes to chapter 18's ending, which is why they even showed the karma card for like 2 seconds of what happens. They're like, oh my God, y'all are just putting that out there, like right there. You just used the card. You didn't even animate it.
I wonder if that's a case of just like, hey, if we are putting this out there just in case, because this is a popular series and all, but also like we need to wait for more story to happen in order to do this.
It might be that. It also might just be like, hey, look, play the game. You can learn what's going on here. Like there are multiple ways that they could go around with this, but like I think a lot of it is they were leaving it open.
Yeah.
Because there's been quite a bit of story that they could easily adapt into a second season that is in the game right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't be a problem. But anyway, yeah, we cover like the first 17 roughly chapters of the game. And it's funny because like you said, it kind of goes the JoJo route, and then it starts off like completely normal-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And then just by the end, you're just like, what is happening? This is bananas.
Yeah. They're like JoJo, people have this idea if they don't watch it or like see things out of context, that it's like, oh, it's just this bonker show that's just throwing stuff at you left and right throughout the entirety of its run. And like, that at times that is the case, but each season has like, it's like it has to basically ramp up into going in that route.
Yeah.
Or like, it's going to start off relatively like normal-ish, but it has to establish like, like time period, characters, plot, villains, all that sort of stuff. And then, once you get that going, you can start ramping up little bit by little bit into like more just ridiculous and ridiculous and ridiculous until like by the end of it, you're full blown into Ridiculousville.
Mm-hmm. You are straight up in bizarre.
And then that's exactly what this show does, where it's just like, the first few episodes are relatively like normal-ish.
Yeah.
Like you learn a few things here and there, but then by like the time you're at the finale, it's just like things are just completely off the rails.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, like the first episode, you have like you're just learning about like the Miracle Entertainment, which is her dad's former company that is not doing well financially. She's trying to revive it to make a show that basically looks at people who have superpowers. And she's struggling with it, and she hears about these like warping incidents that are happening. I think this first episode's where you actually get the first instance where you have Victor like time stop so that he could save her from the car. It's either the first or the second episode. But you're like, huh, okay, that's interesting. But like, other than that, it's a really normal type of show. You're like, okay, all right, things are pretty cool here. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the first episode you meet Victor and Kiro, and then the second episode you meet Lucian and Gavin, I think.
It's normal, but like there's enough there that you're kind of just like, it's not completely normal.
Right, like you realize there are superpowers and things happening here, because again, Victor just straight up stops time and is like, hey, you're an idiot, don't jump in front of cars. And also like the warping incidents, that's kind of an interesting thing. So she finds out that there's the evolvers, and evil is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really how we start our journey. Which I did not even realize until this anime, since they kept putting it up on the screen. I was like, evol is love backwards, but also it's evolved, evolvers, like, mind blown.
Big brain energy there.
Big brain energy there. I did not realize that was the case. I was like, oh my god, wait, it's the same word, it's just backwards. But yeah, evolvers, they're a thing in this world. It's basically stands, just without the physicality of the stands.
Yeah, it's you have the power, but you don't have like a thing. But that's how superpowers work.
You know what? Superpowers don't exist anymore. It's all stands.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think one of the early issues in the game / the anime is that she has to secure funding to continue her show, and she basically just goes up to Victor and is like, hey, you're gonna give me money, I'm gonna be the biggest show in town, believe me. He's like, all right, prove it. She's like, oh, I
didn't think that far ahead.
Yeah, okay, thanks. I'm gonna go now. Oh god, I have to do this now. Oh, Victor, you are such a capitalist. But yeah, so he basically like makes it a conditional type of funding. And she's like, all right, the best way to fix this is for me to go and look into these warping incidents that I've heard about. It's important. Also, side note, every once in a while in these episodes, you'll have some of the company card characters show up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very sad we didn't get the Horsehead Man or Santa. But you did have several of them show up, and that was fun. But why didn't we get the Horsehead or Santa?
Ho, 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 I'm here to help you work.
There's one instance in the game when it's like, you need a psychologist to help your guest on the show, and then like the best pick is Santa, and I'm like, Santa is a psychologist?
You don't know what Santa's been doing in his off time.
I mean, apparently he's a psychologist.
He's been getting a degree from the University of Phoenix.
It's the only one that reaches out there.
Yeah.
North Pole.
He's got nothing else to do.
I mean, fair. He only works one day a year.
Yeah.
So.
He's like, what else am I going to do with my time? Well, I guess I'll just get a degree in psychology. In case I need to help a TV show in the future.
Another And it was really weird that it's like, oh man. I think there's another one. It's like you needed a really tan actor, and then they're like, here's Santa as your best pick, and I'm like, Santa's literally a white man.
Yeah, he's tan. He's got that indoor tan.
If that's the case, I have an indoor tan.
Yeah, you do.
um. So yeah, she ends up getting Lucian as a consultant, and he is a straight up creeper. Which is canonical. He is a straight up creeper, but he like in the anime is like, I'm gonna warn you like not to trust people and like pin you in a corner. And also, by the way, I'm your new neighbor. Hi. Like, which she does that in the
Totally
game.
not a coincidence.
I casually just moved in. No big deal. I just met you right outside. Like I said, he does that in the game too. It's real weird. That was like my third red flag with that dude. I'm like, ooh, I don't like you. I don't like you at all. Please stay 10 feet away at all times. But he's like, oh, I'm gonna consult you on the show. And she also finds Gavin, who she went to high school with. He was her senpai. He's a cop, so
boo.
Yep, super boo. I've discussed it with my friend. Gavin would be such a good guy if he weren't a cop. Like, I would be willing to date him in the game if he weren't a cop. If he got rid of that. But the issue is he also has zero personality. Like, his personality is basically like, I'm in love with the MC. And I'm like, okay, cool. But like, what else?
I'm in love with the MC and I'm a cop. That's his personality.
Basically, like, he likes houseplants and exercise and has a motorcycle.
Yeah,
And
that sounds like a very boring jock person.
That's basically his personality. I'm like, he's a nice dude, but also like, ugh. But yeah, he's a cop. Also, he's like a bird man. He can fly.
He's the rapper Birdman.
Rubbing his hands together.
Look, hang on. This is my call to the Mr. Love fan community.
Mm-hmm.
Superimpose Gavin's head onto the Birdman rubbing his hands gif, please. Thank you very much.
We would appreciate that. Yeah, he is the bird cop. He can fly. Him flying in the anime is not what I pictured when I saw, like, when I would read about him flying in the game. Like, I don't know what my mind was thinking
He just
of.
flapped his arms.
No, I didn't think about that, but it was just like, I wasn't visualizing it the same way. I was like, oh, huh, that's how he does it, huh? He's just got like all this weird wind stuff around him. But anyway, he gives her the ginkgo bracelet in the anime as well, which they don't really bring up a whole lot in this. But he does say his like creeper line of like, as long as you're in the wind, I can find you. I also think this is the episode where he just like straight up eats her. Was it this one or was it the third one?
I don't remember.
It was early on, but she's like about to get shanked by some mafia dude. And he's like, run to the end of the alley. And she's like, okay, run. Jump. Okay, jump in the river. And then she just goes, yeet. And he grabs her. It was great. So yeah, we're going to investigate some more of these warps that's going on. And since he's a cop, he can help us out with that. Yeah. And at some point, we also meet Kiro on the bench. Unfortunately, the Mr. Love anime is not as blatant about just like saying F it to copyright. And
they have to be a little more lenient on that.
Yeah, they're just like, copyright, trademarks, what is that? So you don't get the whole Batman reference with Kiro, with his Lay's potato chips. But he I forget, he doesn't call her he calls her potato chip princess in the anime, not Miss Chips.
Yeah.
Which is also cute, but they go for the same bag of Lay's potato chips.
No, just potato chips, please. No
Sorry.
copyrights.
Sorry.
This is not the first episode of Osamatsu-san where they just said F it and let's have all of these copyright parodies in our episode. But now, oh no, you can never watch this episode ever again.
Oh no. I mean,
That episode is gone.
The game is like, hey, do you want to go get some CVS bread? I'm like, does CVS even have bread?
You know, everyone's favorite department store, CVS.
Like, hey, let's go to Starbucks and get something. There's some other ones too that are just ridiculous. Lay's potato chips and Batman are another one. But anyway, it happens a lot. At one point, you meet Kiro, and then she's like, "Oh my God, you're Kiro! I just saw you dancing on the thing." Which that was something I finally got to see Kiro being an idol, because that never actually happens in the game. He just stands there and says, "Hey, I'm an idol," and you're like, "All right, I guess I believe you." Although
if anyone ever tells you that they're an idol, you have to believe them. That's the law.
Basically, I'm kind of disappointed we didn't get like an actual song from him, but you know, things happen. So Kiro also is like, hey, you know, I'll eventually be on your show. I'll just have to like, it'll have to get a little bit more popular so that my manager will let me on. And after they do the warping episode tidbit, they get that. So now he can be on the show, and that's gonna also get them some momentum. What else happens here? Oh, the souvenir restaurant. I forgot that they covered this. So there is a restaurant that has very mixed reviews. The food is amazing, apparently, but the service is trash. It's also very rarely open. So she's like, I really want to do a piece on souvenir. And that is a whole thing. Spoiler alert, Victor runs the restaurant. Casually. Dude really likes to cook.
He's like, what? I like to cook. Shut up.
And he really likes to make pudding. He was saying that he made pudding for a girl when he was much younger, and he's been looking for the girl ever since. And she at one point like makes a pudding for Kiro, and Victor ends up switching the pudding. And do you know where I'm going with this?
Your pudding's terrible. We need to fix this.
I mean, he basically does say that, but so Kiro gets the good one and eats it, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is the best pudding I've ever had in my life." And then it cuts to Victor like in the dark in his restaurant eating at a table bite of her pudding. And just like, this is terrible. Which, for the record, is in the game, and it's hilarious. But it's just, I think it's in the game. It might not be in the game. Anyway, it's hilarious that he's just sitting in the dang dark and saying that the pudding is terrible. It's really, really funny.
Got my mood lighting and my pudding.
My bad pudding, because I gave all my good pudding that I made away to Kiro so that she didn't kill the idol with her bad pudding. So yeah, with Kiro on board with the souvenir restaurant covered, she's got funding. Yay. So then comes the like next plot of Black Swan. And so she starts investigating that, and at some point she runs across the Miner. I forget what they call him in Japanese, but Miner shows up and is like, "Hey, I need a job. We went to high school together. Like, can have a job? That'd be great." Also, Miner was Gavin's best friend. So that's a red flag right there.
And now he's a minor character. Ha ha
ha. So Miner's like, "Oh yeah, you know, the whole Black Swan thing. Maybe we should look into this hacker named Key."
Hacker voice, I'm in.
Yeah. And Watashi was like, "Oh hey, I've seen that name in my dad's notebook. I should investigate Key." Which I showed you the screenshot from the game, but there's this whole part where they're discussing Key, and it's like, "Oh yeah, you know, he hacked so he could get like the final episode of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood early."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So he uses his powers for weeb good, I guess. Um. So yeah, I think that's the part where she ends up going to the hacker convention. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Which she dresses like she thinks that a hacker should dress, and she's terrible at it. Um, and they end up getting like an announcement like, "Oh, Key's gonna bomb the building," and oh, Kiro's Key, by the way. Whoops, big spoiler. He's like, I can handle this, and the whole room just starts hacking, trying to fix the bomb. They fall through the floor at one point, and
Casually.
casually, as you do, you end up learning more about Black Swan and a little bit more about the fact that they are connected somehow, the two of them. So that leads us into the twins, that she learns about a missing girl that went to her old high school. And so she's investigating that. She's also investigating an episode where she's going to talk about like the letters that are left on the bulletin board in the ramen shop next to her high school. And she is looking into it and remembers like, oh hey, I think Gavin used to like extort these guys for money. So like when they show up, her and Gavin, like she's like, hey, are you guys okay with him being here? Like yeah, he doesn't have to be here. And they're like, oh yeah, he like helped our son after he like almost died. We're very thankful for him. Like we were giving him money because he helped us so much. And she's like, oh,
Whoops.
I have been mistaken for many years on what I thought about Gavin. He's like, I just really like the ramen here.
It's pretty alright.
He's pretty good. So they have the letter thing, and she's like, yeah, I'm gonna go investigate the high school and see what I can find out about this missing girl. Yay! I think at some point I've missed the fact that there was a boy who was doing the warping.
Yeah.
And he got taken by the cops.
Yeah.
Also, there was a weird like wrestling move you were saying that Gavin did at one point that I was like, I don't know what that means.
I forget what it was now.
He like flipped somebody.
And that can mean anything.
Well, yeah, but I just remember you specifically were like, hey, he did this thing. And I was like, I don't know what that means. So I actually like brought the episode back up so I could watch and see what you're talking about.
I think I was going to do that for that wrestling piece too, and I completely forgot about it.
No!
Whoops.
Well, next time you do a wrestling piece.
2 years from now.
And everybody, what is Mr. Love? What is that? Okay, so once we're investigating the high school, there's this blonde girl that she's like, oh, you're the missing one. I think this might have actually been where the guy was taken by the cops. But anyway, turns out it is like her brother dressed as her or something like that.
Her brother.
And so she's like encased in rock on the roof of the high school, and he's like, yeah, totally gonna just straight up murder you. And Gavin, because he knows about her bracelet and all, is able to stop it, and yay.
The wind.
So then that kid gets arrested and the girl is still missing. So that's bad news.
What I guess.
Yeah. We get to learn some more about murderer Lucien. He ends up taking her to a big tree.
Look at this tree.
We find out a little bit about him and the fact that, oh hey, they also used to know each other when they were kids. What? You mean all of them have known each other since they were kids, except for we don't know about Kiro yet, but we sort of did because of the whole thing. Like, what? Literally no one's surprised.
I'm surprised.
So
I haven't played the game, so I'm surprised.
You're not surprised.
I mean, I was.
Okay.
I don't have the context for any of this, so how am I supposed to know?
um, I also forget exactly which episode it is that like Gavin straight up shoots at her.
It's like the fourth or fifth,
It's really
third, fourth, or
early.
fifth.
And I remember when that happened in the game. I was like, dude, what the heck are you doing? And he's like, I was trying to make sure that bullet didn't hit you. I'm like,
Or I gotta go.
you shot a bullet out of the air. Okay. I don't think that's how it works.
No, that's how that works.
Um,
That's physics.
so basically,
Just the wind.
Lucian, I don't know, I'm never gonna say this guy's name right. He takes you to this big tree and he can like put you into dream worlds basically. And so she sees her younger self and sees herself talking to him as a kid and like, hey, let's hang out. He's like, yeah, it'd be a cool idea. I'd like that a lot. And then he's like, he transports her to a scene where like they all get hit by a car, like his parents and him. And the parents are super dead. And she's like, was that you? And he's like, who can say?
I don't know. I better forget about this. All right, I gotta go later.
um Also, a weird thing about this episode is that they bring up Shaw, which Shaw just appeared in the game very, very recently.
He like shows up to see Gavin, and they're like, "Hey, what's up? You got stuff for me? Okay, cool, bye."
Well, they fight for a bit, and Shaw's like, "Yeah, so do you know what the cops, the task force, what they're doing with these evolvers? Like, do you have any idea what they're doing? Because they don't ever come back." And Gavin's like, "What? No, we're the cops. We're on the side of justice." And Shaw's like, yeah, you're not. So Gavin goes to explore and he realizes that every single one that they've arrested has gone missing. They don't know what their status is. Shocking.
And that's also the last time you see Shaw.
It is. It's so weird. Shaw is there for like 2 seconds and then disappears.
He's like, "Here, would you like this plot point? Okay, cool, bye. I'll see you next season."
Well, the funny thing is that it made me realize something about Shaw, and I started investigating it on my own, much like Gavin does about finding out the cops are terrible. And it turns out I was correct. My theory is right.
The cops are terrible.
Well, yes, that's not even a theory. That's a fact. No, can I spoil it for you?
I mean, you've already spoiled it for me.
Okay, well, 10 seconds spoiler here, guys. Shaw is Gavin's little brother.
That wasn't 10 seconds. You just said it immediately afterwards.
No, I was saying the next 10 seconds.
And then you said it.
The next 10 seconds will be a spoiler.
You said 10 seconds. Well, here it is.
Yeah, a 10-second spoiler.
You didn't give them a chance to even pause. You're just like 10 seconds. Well, here we go.
Anyway, that's what it is. He's the little brother. Turns out that plot point is behind a card that you have to pay for. So I would not have known otherwise. But I realized it when I was watching this because it's like they both look kind of similar.
And they have like a similar ability.
They both have weather-based abilities, which not many people have in this world. So I was like, interesting. But anyway, that's his little brother. His little brother's like, yo, bro, you're not really on the side of justice. Just thought you should know. All right, bye. And then disappears for the rest of the Thanks, Shaw. Thanks for letting Gavin know that cops are terrible. You the real MVP.
We salute you.
So soon after that, we end up getting the HBS episode, which I think that episode cliffhanger was like, oh man, this big American company wants to work with us. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, the big American company.
Yeah, HBS, you know that
America's Most Watched Network.
So she convinces Victor, like, hey, you're Loveland's big CEO, man.
That's his title.
Yep. She's like, what if you participate with me in this event that they're setting up in this very creepy like building that nothing terrible will ever happen here? And he's like, okay, I guess. So they're taken through a tour of the set, and they she gets thrown in like a cell and is freaking out. They eventually show like, okay, for one, Victor has to be strong because he kicks in a metal door, which is
As you do.
crazy. Like, either that metal door is terrible and like maybe not even open. I'm not closed, I mean. Or he's just like built like a freaking brick wall. I'm not sure which it is. He definitely does not skip leg day. We'll put it that way.
We got all these tinfoil doors all set up. They're going to really hold, right?
My favorite part is that like they throw Victor one, they're like, ha! And then he just like stops time and is like, all right, I'm just going to walk out now.
All right, see ya.
It's like, you wouldn't research the fact that this man can literally stop time.
Well, they probably didn't know.
I mean, probably. Okay, they're a big secret society that, like, spoiler alert, 10 seconds. Here you go. I'm going to actually kill time here. I don't know if this has been 10 seconds, but they're interested in his time stop abilities. In spoiler.
Okay, regardless of that.
Yeah.
They are a shadowy organization that had doors that are metal doors that are able to be kicked through. So obviously, I don't think they're that smart.
That's true. You are right on.
And also, these are like the lowest of the low on the totem pole. So like, do you think they have that information? No.
They're the goons. Yeah. But yeah, he just time stops.
They're just like, hey, get this guy, and that's it.
So she remembers at this point, like, oh hey,
I've been here before.
Also, she learns that he cannot time stop anybody with like an evol. But yeah, I've been here before. We had a jailbreak type situation like this before. There was a boy who led me out. That was real kind of him. Man, this seems really familiar. Didn't I get like hit by something back then? Man, that must have sucked. Well,
oh no, I'm about to be hit by something again.
Nothing like that should ever happen. Oh god, I just got hit by this thing again. I had to protect Victor, and he's like, it was you this whole time. I've been looking for you. It was you, and I let it happen again. And then he starts letting like black holes swallow these guys in his rage. And I'm like, Jesus, Victor.
Just very casually.
Yeah, the black holes are just like, I think he calls them wormholes, and
which is, that's the point where you're like, man, Victor's really overpowered. He can stop time, and then also just create black holes that can just suck people into them, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And then also we will learn he can just time travel too.
Yeah.
Casually.
Okay, so Victor is, I'm not even going to lie to you, one of the most broken evolvers in this game. Like, some could...
Obviously, he is the broken evolver.
I mean, yes and no, because you have Lucen and his, like, copy ability. Like, that's a pretty good ability.
Yeah, but it's not, hey, I can stop time whenever I want. I can create a black hole whenever I want. If I get a little crazy, I can time travel if I want.
Yeah. Plus the fact that his, I almost called it stand, his evil evolves later and becomes even stronger. And he can do other things. Like, Victor is easily one of the most broken dudes in this game. Like, if you were in a fighting game against him, you would not win, ever.
He's banned.
He's banned from tournaments. I mean, he's stupid good. It's insane. But yeah, he's like, oh man, this is not good. So they end up having like the hospital thing, where she's in the hospital and Victor's like, I'm just gonna work from the hospital. and I'm going to make sure I watch over you, and I'm going to make sure that you're fed. And they say you're going to leave after a week, but there's still some issues. You should stay again. You should just stay. And like he basically keeps her in the hospital for several weeks, and she's like, "Oh my god, please let me out." Um, but he's freaked out because he almost lost her again, and like he's not handling that well. And at one point, Lucian comes in and he's like, "So, here you're keeping the birdie in the cage, huh? Maybe you shouldn't do that." And he's like, "I don't want to hear from you, son."
You want me to whoop your ass? Because I will whoop your ass right here, right now.
I mean, that's basically how it goes down in the hall. And so eventually she gets out of the hospital. And they didn't handle that as well in the anime as they did in the game. Because they end up talking more about like his emotions with it, and they end up having like an actual romantic scene there. But the problem is you can't really lean into the romantic side of this, because if you give one guy too many romantic scenes, that people are going to get mad.
And also, like, the romance stuff hasn't existed in this show at all to this point.
Right.
So it would just be it would be a huge tonal shift and just wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. So that got cut, and it's kind of a bummer because there's a really good like character development moment for Victor, and made him a bit more sympathetic on why he's doing what he's doing, as opposed to him just seeming like a weird control freak. Which is what he comes across as here. Also, like they show him like, oh, he has facial hair. Interesting. Because he can't shave when he's at the hospital.
I mean, he could. There's a sink.
He could, but he's choosing not to. Which, for the record, Victor uses an electric shaver.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a karma with him shaving, and he's using an electric shaver. I'm pretty sure he's using an electric shaver. Now I feel like I'm lying to you. Hold on. Because an electric shaver is like one of the items you can give in the game. Let's see. Where's that weird naked one I have of him? Where is that? Okay, this should be easy to find. Why am I not finding the naked one? Did I make him not naked? Did I do? Oh, there it is. Yes, I made him not naked. That's smart of me. Okay, no, he's got a regular razor there.
Wow, you're losing it.
I am losing it. There's something where he does an electric shaver. I swear to God. Anyway, he could shave if he wanted to, because he totally does in that thing where he's just like abs out for some reason. Anyway, moving on. We end up in the room 404 episode after she gets out of the hospital, where she starts actually getting these like premonitions.
I mean, she's been getting these premonitions throughout the entire series.
Some of them, but this one's very, very prominent.
Yes, but also like they've been like, oh, hey, something bad's going to happen to me at some point.
Yeah.
So like it's not like this is the first time this has happened.
No, but this is like a plot one.
I mean, the other ones have been plot ones.
Not to this extent.
Agree to disagree.
Okay. So anyway, she sees room 404 on fire, and Gavin is in it, and he dies.
Ripperoni and pepperoni.
So she goes to the hotel, and she's like, "Where is room 404?" And they're like,
404 error, cannot compute. Please try again later.
We don't actually have a room 404. And she's like, well, give me the room closest to where 404 would be, or I want to go up there. And they're like, you can't go up there until you have a room. She's like, give me a room on the 4th floor now. So I think she gets like 405 or something like that, and she realizes like, oh yeah, they're right, there is no room 404. Until
just
there
kidding.
is.
Until I turn around and there is.
So she goes in, and the twin girl is there, and is like, oh hey, been waiting for you. I thought you would show up at some point. So they start having words. And she is pretty murderous. She's also part of Black Swan. Also, her brother's gone missing now since, he's in police custody. So that's bad. Gavin gets a voicemail from her. He's like, don't go to this hotel in room 404. And he's like, I guess I should go to that hotel and go to room 404 immediately then, huh?
Also, because I don't think we've mentioned it at all yet. I think we've overlooked it a little bit.
Okay.
Black Swan is the Shadowy organization that did the stuff in the previous episode as well.
Yeah.
Also, her dad was investigating them and then died.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's why she's like super into like trying to figure out what they're doing.
Valid point. Um. So anyway, yes, that is important.
That is why we were speaking of dad murder at the very beginning of this episode.
Yes, yes. That is
important to circle back around to.
We probably should have mentioned that early on. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's.
We are, to be fair, like we are going off of like very weird ways of trying to talk about these episodes because there's no like episode synopses on Wikipedia or anything. It's like we're going off of like the episodes themselves, and those aren't necessarily the best synopsis of an episode. So
yeah. So I'm trying to remember from memory, what the anime was and what the game was, and trying to like not mix my signals too much. But
yes,
that's also going to be an issue. So anyway, yeah, he calls or he phone called. He's like, yeah, I should definitely go to this hotel that she told me not to go to, and definitely go to room 404. So he goes up to the front desk. He's like, hey, was there a weird girl in here asking about room 404? Because I'd really need to go to room 404. And like, sir,
my dude,
there is no room 404. And he's like, huh, okay. So I'm a cop. Can I go investigate the fourth floor? I'm like, okay.
I guess
there's no 404, and also cops suck. So using that as an excuse. So he goes up and it's like, there is no room 404 until I turn around and there is room 404. Whoa! What? And he walks in and everything's on fire. So she's been in like this weird like hellscape type thing with the twin, where everything is also on fire, but like it's very dark and black, and I don't know exactly how to describe it. Basically spooky. It's kind of like trying to torment her. So Gavin is like, I'm gonna rescue you now. This is kind of important. And the girl twin at some point brings up the idea of the queen. And the MC's like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, the queen, she's supposed to like make all the evolvers have their abilities amplified. And
I think
right?
Up to this point we've seen brief instances of like the big bad talking about this as well.
Yes.
So like this isn't like a new concept in general. It's just like here's another character talking about this and more implicating that the main character is supposed to be the queen and all this sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the queen is supposed to be able to amplify powers of evolvers. So he is able to essentially rescue her from the girl twin, but in the process his wind evol just goes completely bat. And so he starts getting like black wind around him and he can't really control it, and he just like runs away from her.
Gotta go, bye.
Which it's actually kind of neat. They did a very close replication of the karma of which like that scene happens in, because that's an actual card you can get in the game. His outfit's a little bit different, but otherwise like they almost nailed it there in terms of how the hands are positioned and the body's positioned and everything. I was like, that's actually pretty cool. Because they haven't really done a whole lot of that in this where they're trying to replicate the karma. But this was one instance of that. I was like, all right. So yeah, now we know that she's the queen and evols kind of go nuts. And Gavin's lost his mind. Yay! 404, Gavin's abilities are borked. Okay, so now we're gonna get a little bit more of a low-key episode.
Loki?
Yes, Loki. Chaos.
He's in this episode?
He is. What a good boy.
Is he snoring?
Oh, I wish. So Gavin's gone. He's just gone. Kiro is forced into retirement because his fans go completely nuts. Also worth mentioning, they haven't really brought it up much in this, but Kiro's evol is absolute charm. Basically, like he can make anybody love him. Pretty convenient for an idol. So with his going completely berserk, like his fans are going
Or like
absolutely
fighting each other
bananas.
at like an
Yeah.
event and stuff. So
Yeah.
like he's like, oh, this is bad.
Okay, bye.
Um,
Victor just goes missing.
yeah. So like that, I think it's the cliffhanger to like the last episode is that like
It is.
you just see like him just being like, oh, this is bad. Black holes just keep appearing, and then just like a bunch, like some light happens outside of his office, and then he's just gone.
Yeah, he's just sitting at his desk. The black holes appear, like you said, the light, and then he's just super duper gone.
Do they show what happens to him in that same scene, or is it like? I think it's they show what happens to him in that scene. Regardless, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't matter where they show it, but like he shows back up, and like he's 10 years in the future.
Yeah, I don't remember if that was this one or the next one, but he is in 10 years in the future. So he's in 2030, and he sees an older version of himself drive by.
Yes, and then they never bring. They're like, hey, okay, that just happened.
Yeah, which like 38-year-old Victor, he could get it. He's hot.
He still looks the same.
He,
They didn't really draw him that much different.
he looks a little bit different.
Eh.
A little bit. I mean, 28-year-old Victor could get it too, but like 38-year-old Victor could also get it. So, but yeah, they don't ever bring up older Victor again.
It's like, oh, I guess that was the thing. Well, anyways.
Anyway, I'm in the future, I guess. That's interesting. So yeah, time travel, that can happen. So yeah, things are nuts. Also, poor Goldman, Victor's assistant, is just having...
scrambling. He's like, everyone's just like, where's the CEO? And he's like, he's on vacation right now. He's taking some time off. That's just a thing. He'll be back in the office very soon. We'll let you know when he's back. And he's just like,
He's stuck in the bathroom for like days, and we're just gonna leave him there. That's what's happening right now. That Goldman deserves a raise. I will say that right now. Justice for Goldman. That dude puts up with so much in this game. And he definitely, I can guarantee he does not get paid enough. I can guarantee. So yeah, everything's kind of gone out of control. That's bad. And so she goes to talk to Lucian, and he's like, yeah, we can figure this out, right? So was this oh no, it's the earlier one that we see that like he can't see color, right? The one with the tree?
The tree episode, yeah. So
yeah.
Like, that's already been established by this point.
Okay. So yeah, in the tree episode,
colorblind.
He's colorblind except for her.
Yes.
Which, I'm always curious with this. I'm like, how has he been picking out colors that actually don't clash completely? Because, like, at one point he's like, she hands out, like, some ribbons. Like, which one do you want? You like, which do you want to match? And he picks two that look really nice together. I'm like, how did he do that? It's all gray.
He knows he likes these specific shades of gray. 50 of them, to be exact.
He would be into that. He would. He's a weirdo.
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember what's happening in this episode other than that.
So I think this episode is where they figure out like there's like this device that's amplifying the evolved thingamajig inside people that's causing them to freak out and everything. Yes. I don't remember if this is the same time where like you're seeing a lot of people like go into a deep sleep and not wake up.
I think that's later.
But regardless, that's the thing that happens later. So like he helps her like figure like out where this supposed to be. Oh, they like
take the map and triangulate it.
Yeah, and then they figure out it's at the Loveland Tower or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then the dude, like the goons, come and try to take her away, and then he fights them off. But then they're like, "You're supposed to be on our side." And she's like, "What? What? What do you mean?" And he's like, "Oh, by the way, I'm with Black Swan. Hello."
Well, part of that's in episode 10, but yeah, it's interesting how he pulls it off because he's they're saying like, oh hey, you're supposed to be on our side, da, 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 da. And she's like, why are they saying that? And he's like, Oh, I'm not part of that. What would you say if I said that? Would you believe me?
No, he says it like in a like. I like the way he like delivers that line because he's just like
Yeah.
he has that very soft tone. He's like, "Oh, I'm not a part of that." That's what you want me to say, isn't it?
Hmm.
Because like he gets like real deeper into his voice when he says like that part, and it's like that's a good just like switch of like, oh, this dude's got a like a flip or a switch he can flip.
Hmm. Yeah. So his Aries personality is actually really fascinating, and he's able to do it in the game too. That he's a very soft spoken person and kind
Mm-hmm.
of has like that um like kind professory type
That gentle
person.
kind of vibe.
Yeah. Um which I say that, but like I don't know many professors who are actually very kind. But he is a very like gentle person overall. But then when he switches into the Aries personality, and interestingly enough, I was reading, and this is going to be the dumbest thing in the world. Please forgive me. I was reading an analysis that someone did of the like uh trying to think of the right word to describe this. Basically, the way that they text and the way that they speak in the game, each of the characters when in Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying that when he is in his regular mode, that he is always like very, very professional. Like he's always uh using like the like highest forms of why am I blanking on the words that I need right now?
Words are hard.
Yeah, like he doesn't like the rest of them say like ore or whatever when they're referring to themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and he uses like boku.
Mm-hmm.
So he's always trying to be like as like respectful as he can be.
Yeah.
And he refers to her in like a very respectful pronoun. I think he calls her like Kimi. But he's always trying to like soften the way that he speaks when he's talking to her. And like even if he's trying to say something sarcastic, he'll try and throw in something that makes it like less rough.
Mm-hmm.
Once he flips into his Aries mode, all that's out the window. Like he just completely goes into the straight like alpha male type
Mm-hmm.
speaking, which is really cool thing to do. Like, that would be a little bit hard to do in English, where it's much easier to like portray that in Japanese.
I think you could still do it. It's just
They do,
you would have to rely more on like tone and like
they do in the game.
yeah, like just like
Um,
more respectful type of like wording around that sort of stuff. Where as with like Japanese, you can kind of get away with like a little bit more because just the way their language is structured and everything.
mhm. So he's the gentle, kind guy vocally, in his main personality. But when he flips into Aries, he's a lot more just like gruff
Mm-hmm.
in general,
Yeah.
and basically drops like any pleasantries at all.
Yeah,
That's in English and
he is
Japanese.
more like he's stone cold when he gets into that mode.
Yeah. So, turns out this guy has been like top ranked Black Swan all
Yeah,
along. Also his eye starts bleeding, which is wild.
turns into Sasuke for a second.
She threatens to
It's a Naruto
shank
joke for you.
herself with a pin.
Yeah, that part ruled. Like, because he gives her a pin earlier in the episode or at some point. It's like, here, you should have this, and like, she learns that like who he truly is, and she's like, hey, if you don't let me go, I'll cut myself right here. I will do it. Don't just try me, and he's like, whatever. Because like you also learned that like obviously even though he's with Black Swan and everything, like he's not necessarily on the same page as Hades.
Yeah, which is another top tier.
Yeah, he is the top tier. He is the bad guy of this series for now.
Yes.
But like they're not on the same page per se when it comes to like their goals and aspirations and everything. So like while he is this top ranking dude in this very shady group and everything, like he very much kind of has his own agenda and is like doing what he wants compared to like what the group wants as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Which Hades also like accuses them several times of like, you've just letting her get under your skin, like you've lost sight of what this is supposed to be about.
mm-hmm.
And he's like, nope, I got this, it's fine, these are my methods.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, buddy. Your methods, right? Um, but I wonder how that hit you since, I mean, I know that you knew that I called him murderer and that he was a
I
bad
knew
guy
like
and
something
everything.
was shady, and I think they basically kind of alluded to him being a part of Black Swan at some point earlier, so like it wasn't that
Yeah.
big of a surprise.
Yeah.
But like the way he does like the tone switch, I thought was very interesting.
It's really cool.
But yeah, she threatens to like shank herself in the neck, and then he's just like, "Okay, I'll let you go, bye." And he's like,
Which,
"You would never do this. You're really like this, the regular guy. Okay, I'm gonna leave. Bye."
but that was a cool moment for her because she was just like, uh-uh.
Yeah, I really like that.
I did too. It was fantastic. Um, so yeah, she is determined that she is going to get that TV tower thing gone.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes to like check out the TV tower and tries to figure out how to infiltrate it. And guess what? Kiro's there.
Yeah, so this is the penultimate episode, right?
And this is where we find out about the sleeping people.
Yes.
Which,
so like there's like because of the evil thing freaking out and everything, there's just a bunch of people sleeping, and then like they're basically turning into evolvers. And like some of them, like they're just going to sleep throughout this entire thing. Some of them, their powers are going to awaken and freak out, and their bodies aren't going to be able to handle it, and they'll just like do some powers and then die. And then like there's like a scene, I don't know if it's this episode or the next episode or sometime during this, but like you just see like these scientists just like dumping bodies, just very casually, just like, oh, guess there's another one. Here's another one. Because I think that's with her and Victor
and the Cognitive Psychology Association.
Yeah, which is great because they're like, she's like, oh, can you help me get to this building? And he's like, cool, I can do this. And then like they just sneak around by just being like, all right, here's the hallway. Stop time. Let's move on. Let's get to this next area. All right, resume time. All right, stop time for here. Let's walk past these guards and everything, and let's make it to this room and everything. Here we are.
Which there's the whole thing of like he clarifies like, oh, by the way, I time traveled. I'm back. You were fine, by the way. Everything was fine with you in the future. I couldn't even get an appointment to hang out with you. You know, it was rough.
Ha ha ha! Just kidding. I mean, he doesn't say that to her, but like,
No.
but the reality is that like
she's dead.
He's been trying to find ways to save her in the future, but keeps failing and just like time traveling again to redo that and see what he can do differently. And this was the weird facet of this game or the show where I was just like, oh, this is just like the plot of Steins Gate.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting, and it's a great moment of character development for Victor because he is determined in the anime and the game. He's determined to find a way to save her. And I mean, he just keeps going through it and through it and through it and through it. And he's like, there has to be a way to do this. There has to be. And I really wish that they had touched on that a little bit more here because, I mean, they hint at it in the last episode.
Yeah, but I think it's just one of those things where they just didn't have time.
Yeah.
There's so much they have to cram in.
Every single timeline that she's gone, Victor had to kill her. So he's having to watch himself murder her over and over and over and over and over and over in these timelines, and he's trying to find a way to stop it. Which is intense.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. So yeah, it's basically Steins Gate. You know, minus the fact that he wasn't the one directly murdering every time. But
but like there is a lot like you can like take from this series and be like, oh, there's definitely influences from this series, from this series, from this series, from this series, especially in these last couple of episodes in particular. But after like they do all that and they get out of the science building, they're met down in like the parking garage. They get met by Hades, and he sends like his shadow goons after them, and then she unleashes her queen powers at one point, and she's like, "Oh, cool! This is my power thing. That's weird. Anyways, let's get out of here."
Did I mention that this is where we learned that Victor's powers are powered up?
No.
Okay, yeah. So since his whole like evil black hole thing, he's learned how to stop evolvers too, which is so broken.
But it's interesting. I guess like he would have the ability to select who he wants to stop.
Yes,
because she obviously she is able to go along with him. So like, and she's an evolver. So like, if that was his power, just like full stop, she would be stuck as well, and he'd just be like, okay, I guess I gotta pick you up and take you with me or something. I don't know.
No, he has the ability to choose who he wants to
But
stop.
yeah, it's very broken. But yeah, I think, and then after this, she goes to the tower, and that's where she meets with Kiro, and they do some hacking stuff, and they find all the guards have like these collars on that are supposed to like suppress the evil waves, so they're not affected by what's happening and everything. And they destroy a bunch of those, but then like the dude in charge of the tower is like, I got a different frequency on mine, ha ha ha. And they have to race to the top while they fight this dude, and then Gavin shows up at one point.
Yeah, well, Kiro hacks the robots, which is great.
Yeah.
But Kiro's like, all right, you know what? I gotta be the hero in this, and like ends up knocking the dude out of the glass of the building, and like he gets caught on the like on the guard area at one point. But yeah, kind of messed up. But then they're having to run to the top, and this is where Kiro ends up showing off another ability that he has. Because they're running and all the other evolvers are coming after them, and Kiro's like, all right, you have to get in there and you have to stop this. I can't go with you. And she's like, no, I'm not leaving you. And he's like, nope, you're going to leave me. I command you to go through that door. You can't come back for me, but I will eventually be back. Okay, bye now.
So like he has to like look you in the eye and then like tell you like, I'm commanding you to do this, and like it just like that the person does that, and that's what she does. She like leaves and she's like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Why is my body doing this? Oh God, I don't want to do this. No.
And his eyes change color. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
Okay. But he's like, I will eventually be back. I promise. And then like when the door shuts, she hears like gunshots and everything, and she's like, oh my God. But she climbs up and is able to destroy the
device,
the device, and then she just falls off the building.
Like, all right, later I'm gonna fall off this building. And then Gavin's like, I found you in the wind. I don't know if we talked about this, but like at some point as well, like Gavin found out about the cops like murdering all of the proto evolvers.
It was after we talked about Shaw.
Yeah, so like he finds that out and everything. Then he confronts like the cops.
Oh yes, he does do that.
And they're like, nah, we have to do this. This is our job and everything. He's like, that's a bad thing you should be doing. And they're like, nah, we're just going to beat you up. And then he runs away, and then like the military shows up and finds him, which is apparently his dad. And like the cliffhanger after this episode, because like he saves her and everything, and that's what happens. And then they're like, oh, by the way, he's in this like incubation chamber thing from Dragon Ball Z. Vegeta's there, and he's like, Vegeta, Krillin, and Gohan are there, and Krillhan's like, oh man, Mondo cool. And Vegeta's like, that's right, boys. Mondo cool.
We also hear him flatline when he's in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a thing that happens. There's something else I was going to mention about that. Oh yeah,
the military dude is his dad.
His dad sucks. But also his like mentor in the police dies. He gets shot at one point, and he's like, Gavin, you gotta go, bud. Goodbye. But yeah, so now we know he's being experimented on by his dad.
Victor A-okay for the most part, just very time travel trauma.
Yeah.
Lucian, bad guy.
I mean, is that really okay? Time travel trauma we've seen.
To be fair, he's alive.
he's alive. That's key, and he can actually move around and do things that he needs to do.
Lucian is a shady bad guy.
Yes.
Hero presumed dead.
Yes.
Gavin presumed dead, now being experimented on.
Yes.
And then we get to the final episode where the protagonist and Victor go to a boat.
They're on a boat.
So they're going after Hades, who's on this boat, and then they're like the bad guys like shoot up the boat that they're trying to get on, and then like they crash into the big boat, but they time travel, or they stop time in their way to get on the boat, and they're like, oh, did we get them? We blew up their boat. Oh no, we did it. Oh, this sucks. And this is more of just like stealth, but we're just gonna stop time and sneak by people, which is great.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
So like she sends him to like I don't remember where, but like
it's basically like the helm of the boat.
Yeah, and she's like, hey, find some stuff, figure things out. I'm gonna put it into this.
Also worth mentioning, the whole sleeping thing was changed from the game.
Yes.
Which I mentioned to you, it was probably a good idea because in the game it's like
A pandemic.
a pandemic virus that is
Yeah.
like got a very poor
Yeah.
survival rate.
Yeah.
Probably bad time
A
for
little too
that.
topical there.
Yeah.
I don't. I think there's a cliffhanger as well in episode 9, isn't there? Or the not episode 9, the penultimate episode that shows what happens to Kiro. Right? Or does that happen in this episode? I think it's the last episode. Because like I knew going into this episode he was going to be this person.
Helios?
Yes.
There might have been a hint at it, but like this is our first real like
Yeah.
this
So
is
he-
who he is.
So when we talked about this game 13 months ago, this was the stuff that was like spoil or like they were like just putting into the game in like the Chinese or Japanese versions or whatever.
Chinese.
And you were like, I don't know what's happening, but Kiro's an edgelord now. This is
He has a
very
tattoo.
weird. He's got tattoos. So this is the edgelord version of him. I was like, oh, it's the edgelord him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's goofy.
We end up getting like military Gavin like jumps off a helicopter and like
Yeah. Essentially,
just-
like all the dudes just show up on this boat. So like, yeah, he shows up and he's got black wind now, and he's just like very serious. He's like, go do your stuff. And she's like,
also
okay,
just
cool.
straight up murders a bunch of people. Like he's
Yeah, just
just
straight up
shooting
murders some
people
dudes.
left and right.
You see Helios. He shows up as well, and she's like, oh my god, Kiro, you're okay. And he's like, who are you? I don't know who you are, but also you want to hit this cool button and go down these stairs? Let's do that.
Yep.
Lucian's just in the boat, just murdering dudes, just cause.
But at one point he's like, "Oh hey, flowers. That's neat."
He's like, oh, you will have to do what you need to do and all of this. I will not stop you. I will be in the shadows. That's basically what he does. So her and edgelord Kiro go down these steps, and then Hades is like, hey, I got some shadowy goons for you.
Woo! They're basically like.
Oh, by the way, hey Helios, what's up? You're a cool dude. Anyways, it's real messed up that you're trying to oppose me. I don't really like that, so I'm gonna have to do something about that. You know, that's just what we got to do here. Anyways, you want to fight some
these
shadowy dudes?
Shadowy dudes kind of look like the inflatable guys you see at car lots.
The wacky inflatable arm waving tube men.
Basically, they're just like. Whoa!
So like he's
Shadowy
just like
guys.
so edgelord Kiro is just like unloading shots into all these dudes because like he has a gun now because he's an edgelord, and
Yes.
then they take the protagonist away.
Yes.
They suck her into the ground, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you."
He
I
tries.
don't know why I'm doing this, but okay.
He's trying to grab
anyways,
her hand and
I guess I'll just
fails.
shoot these guys. So then she meets up with Hades in this weird, just distorted world, and he's like, "I'm going to take your power, and you have no way of stopping it. Let me shoot you with these weird darkness things, and that's going to engulf your body. And oh, by the way, your power's done now. I win, you lose."
He
Let me tell
also
you-
mentions the other queen.
Yes, the other queen, and she sees a vision of this person for a split second. She's like,
Mhm.
"Who was that?" That was weird. Also, it looks basically like her,
Yes.
which is interesting. So she like passes out, and then he's like, "I'm gonna take your powers and everything." Cool. And then basically this just turns into Persona 3 and Persona 4, where you just have all your friends come by and be like, "No, you can still fight, my friend.
The power bonds.
The power of bonds compel you." It's literally the end of Persona 3 and Persona 4.
It is.
1000%.
It is.
So she
With
has
some
all of her
Sailor Moon mixed in.
Yeah, so she has her social links talk to her, and then she powers back up, and then she turns into Sailor Moon from like the end of season 3.
Yep.
Like that's also the end of season 3 of Sailor Moon,
Yep.
where she is like engulfed by like a creature and then pops back up in a more super powered form.
Yep.
Again, this show just wears its influences on its sleeves,
Yep. Yep.
and it's great.
It's great.
Like you could also like, man, the shadowy figures; those are just shadows from Persona.
Yeah, basically.
It's really good. So
We
she
also
powers.
get some like great scenes with the dudes though. Like there's a scene with Victor where like he's got the shadowy dudes around him and he's like, "Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna stop time, pick up this gun, shoot this giant chandelier behind me perfectly, and then start time back again, get these shadows dead. I'm gonna walk away adjusting my tie."
The best part is like they show a scene before that where like the shadows are about to sneak up on him, and then afterwards he's just like, "Stop time." Pew. Mess with these other guys. All right, let me get out of here. Just a tie. Walk away. Time back on.
It's so good.
It's hilarious.
It's so good. Also, apparently, he's good with computers because, like, either Black Swan doesn't password protect their computers, or he is able to just.
Yeah, it is like I told you, he is rich, so he probably has just a one password that can override any other password in the universe. It's his black card, but for passwords.
Yeah, Kiro's in the or Helios is in the bottom hacking at one point. Gavin's just murdering people.
Gavin's just murdering people, and then Lucian's doing something.
Like I said, playing with the flowers. He's in the garden playing with flowers.
He's just being shady.
Basically.
So she powers back up and then defeats Hades, essentially.
The power of light and
the power of bonds.
Yep.
Whatever the end of Persona 4 the animation tells you. The ending credits.
Yeah, he's like, oh no, this isn't how it was supposed to happen.
I was supposed to be powerful for my queen. And like there's like a shot of her of the like, other queen just giggling. Being like, ha, you suck.
Yeah, basically.
That happens, and then they all leave the boat.
Yes.
Basically. So then we get like a montage of like, here's what's happened afterwards. Everyone woke up from the sleep thing. Yay!
Yay!
Protag doesn't have powers anymore. Yay!
Yay!
Victor's Victor.
Yay!
There is a funny shot, I think, in this episode or the previous episode where like it's him and like this like task force of his. Where you see the one dude you were talking about, Goldman is just like, all right, everyone, we have to find a cure for this sleeping thing because that's what the CEO wants. We're gonna do this because we're all in this together for him. Let's hear it. Everyone's like, yeah.
Yeah, that was in the previous episode, but yeah, that was good.
But yeah, he's just, he's still being a CEO and everything. Gavin's a military man now.
And like he even specifically mentions like I'm in the military with my dad, and like Gavin hates his dad.
Yeah, so that's
rightfully so because his dad sucks.
Lucian's just being Lucian.
Yeah,
probably. I think he was like in a classroom or something again.
Yeah,
and just like, oh, maybe I need to not be in Black Swan anymore. Maybe, I don't know. I'll just be shady still.
Yeah,
and then Kiro looks like he's making a power play to just be the head of Black Swan.
Yes,
which is very interesting.
Yeah. So that's also important to keep in mind. Also, like I said, they just like flash a shot of the ending of chapter 18 in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Which they just show the karma, which is Victor crying, holding the main character, and then also holding a knife.
Was that supposed to be like, because they kept showing a flash forward of like this snowy scene that he's seen a bunch of times.
Okay, so the snowy scene is the next part of the story after the stabbing.
Okay, so like essentially that's just an extended portion or more of that scene he's seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I forget exactly how they refer to it, but it's basically like eternal winter type thing.
Because like the way they were kind of suggesting it in the show, I mean, to this point, was that like if she fails and they get the queen powers, that's what the world's going to turn into.
Yeah, well, it happens anyway.
So who knows?
So I promised you when we talked this weekend, I was like, I'm going to make another JoJo reference in this.
Okay.
But I'm going to specifically refer to Golden Wind.
Yeah.
Do you remember this conversation?
I remember you mentioning this, yes.
Okay. So, what I need to mention here is that there are moments where the episodes end and then we get the ending theme, and it is just like tonal whiplash, much like in Golden Wind's first ending. Because you're like, oh man, things are really bad right now. It's just like this soft romantic theme, and I'm just like, what is happening right now? And it's not nearly as bad as Freaking You, but like,
what if someone just did recut an episode but then added Freaking You as the ending theme to Mr. Love?
I hope somebody does that. But like that, oh man, it just totally freaks me out sometimes. I was like, this doesn't work. But the great thing is that every episode ends with a new animation piece of The Boys, which is great.
New art.
It's very nice.
But yeah, that final episode really kind of like they leave a lot of things open ended enough to where, like we said earlier, like if they get a season 2, they can just pick right back up.
Yeah.
Or I guess if you want to be like, hey, go play the game if you want to see what's going to happen next, which I've seen that home screen. I don't know how easy that is.
Yo, it's just even more chaotic now.
Yeah. But yeah, that is Mr. Love in a nutshell. The anime, I should say.
The anime, yes. I don't think we can nutshell the game at this point, but eventually
not
we
yet.
might have to do a part 2 of that episode so I can explain what happens in
Yeah. I had a lot of fun with this show.
It was fun.
Yeah, like I knew going into it, like obviously as you said, because we did that episode, like I knew it was going to be very ridiculous in terms of story, but I don't think I was expecting to like it as much as I did.
Yeah,
I know story is a lot of fun.
A lot of people didn't like it that I played the game, but I liked it a lot. Like it's not a 1-for-1, but I didn't expect it to be a 1-for-1. Like it's enough that it gives you like the general idea of what Mr. Love is about, but it's a fun ride.
It does a good job, especially because it is an adaptation of an Otome game to where like it doesn't really wear that sleeve to where like if you're a person who's like weird, like, oh, I don't want to play an Otome game or watch an Otome anime, like you could watch this and be fine.
Yeah.
Like is it way more like they take this very niche genre of a game and open it up to like a more broader audience because of how they've structured this series.
Yeah, I mean they definitely strip it of the romance elements to focus on the story, which it's fine because that's essentially how the like main game functions in the game itself. Like they can't lean too heavily on one guy,
right?
Because otherwise that's gonna mess up people, and they're like, oh, I'm a this person stan. I don't want to like have it implied that this person is actually the canon love interest. Like they can't do that. So I mean, it works really well in the way that they were able to adapt it, and I think that they were able to get across a lot of the like major plot points in ways that were interesting.
Yeah.
It was also cool to see everything animated. Like, I'm so used to just seeing them like as cardboard cutouts just talking at me. So it was like every once in a while you get the karma images, but it was really cool to see everybody in motion.
I will say that like this was something that I talked to you about I think early on in the series, but like even with how they structure the series, it's still real weird that like they have like these 4 main dudes, but they never interact with each other outside of like very rare instances.
Yeah, like you have the scene in the hospital, and then you have the scene with Victor and Kiro in the hallway at one point.
And that's it.
That's it.
Like you would imagine like eventually this would turn into like some huge team up thing. I mean maybe there is room considering the story is still ongoing, like that could eventually be the case.
Yeah.
But if we were talking about just like this contained season as a whole, like it is very bizarre that that's a thing that never happens. Like it just feels very bizarre and strange to like, have like these 4 main characters that interact with this one specific character, but then none of the others just like are aware of the other's existence.
Yeah.
It's real weird.
Another thing that I think is an actual improvement on the game, prediction that like they made her not completely a moron, but they also made the main character actually look a little bit older than she does in the game. Like she kind of looks like a teenager in the game, which is kind of weird when you have like 28-year-old Victor dating her. And like I've shown you the one karma with Gavin where she just basically like looks like an absolute idiot, and he's like, oh yeah, that's a shell, good job. And so like her looking a bit older in this, I was like, all right, I'm into that. Makes it seem more like she is an actual like adult who's doing these things. That was nice. Like she still has her moments of like childishness, which is fine. Like I have moments of childishness. It's totally cool. But like she doesn't come across as a child in this.
No.
A big improvement. There's something else I was gonna mention. Now I'm just totally I don't remember.
The hard part about remembering things.
It's hard, man.
Well,
We talked about Mr. Love.
we did talk about Mr. Love again.
It was good.
It's a good show. I liked it.
Yay! I'm glad you watched it.
It was a fun, enjoyable ride
I
because of just how over the top it was.
I really do hope at some point we get a season 2. I think that would be fun. I don't know that we will because it's basically like, you know, these kinds of things very rarely do get a season 2.
Yes, but also like considering the popularity of this series, I wouldn't be surprised by it, but I don't think it's going to come anytime soon.
No.
Because I would assume they would want to hold off so they can have enough story to do another season.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be a couple of years from now, which that could also be a double-edged sword because, like, is this game going to be popular in a couple of years or so?
Right. Like I said, you could definitely make enough story with the whole, like, winter story that they've got going on right now. Or it's basically just ended. Because it's several chapters and it's very in-depth and also has a lot more of Shaw that you would have to deal with. Like, a lot more of Shaw. And you can't just put him in for 5 seconds anymore.
I mean, they can. You can't. You don't know.
I mean,
who's to stop them?
But you do have a lot of like character changes here because you would have Gavin in his military role. You would have Kiro as Helios and his balancing of that. You have Lucian trying to balance his Ares persona and also try and like convince main character like, hey, I'm not all that bad, and she's like, well, press X'd it out. And so like they're trying to like come to terms with each other of like, maybe we just have different perspectives. And she's like, no, you're still a murderer. I mean, you're kind of hot, but you're a murderer. And hot is relative. He's my least favorite, but whatevs. Casual. It's bad when you're below a cop.
It's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. I like Shaw better than either of them, and that's bad because Shaw is basically a punk.
It's gonna do that a lot.
I just thought you were making a sound, and then I realized what you're doing. You're doing that thing.
Yeah.
No, not that kind of punk.
Oh.
He's like I want to go graffiti things and skateboard and.
Yeah, that's a punk.
Well, yeah, he's also.
They would also do that.
He doesn't really do that though.
Well, he's a loser.
It's disappointing. Apparently in Japanese, he uses like very stereotypical like punk conjunctions with his phrasing, which is really funny. But yeah, he's a punk. And I mean that in the sense of like he's kind of punkish and like he's got that aesthetic going on, but he's also just a punk. Like sometimes I'm texting him, I'm just like, you are such a little butthead. Get out of here. You're in grad school. I don't believe that.
I've been there.
I've been to grad school once or twice. He's also just in a band and hangs out at a bar all the time.
Yeah, sounds like a punk.
Yeah. Purple hair. Yeah, it's pretty funny though, because, he's related to a cop. Actually, 2 cops, technically.
It's too many.
I agree with you. No wonder he turned out the way he did.
It's true.
So yeah, you could do a lot with the story, but, we'll see if that happens.
Yeah.
Mr. Love's good.
But for now, that's it.
Yep.
That's all she wrote.
Yeah, if you play the game, beware of the home screen because it's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare. Literal nightmare.
I've been playing this since the game came out, and like, it's still too much for me. There's some things I just like, I can't do this today. It's too much. So I just don't.
It's the right way to approach this. But that's going to do it for this episode.
Yeah, we're done.
We're done. So if you'd like more from us, go to seasonalcheckup.com or sec.cool where you can find past episodes of this podcast like Seasonal Checkup and Jared Now Watch. You can also find columns reviews on the site as well. You could also maybe, I don't know, go on Amazon.com and buy our book.
We wrote a book.
We wrote a dang book.
Yay.
It's called One Shining Moment, a critical analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine. I know, very shocking that the two of us wrote a book about Love, Life, Sunshine.
What?
Yes, it is episode by episode breakdown of the series where we talk about things that happen in the episodes. Interesting, little facets about characters, about the story, about things that happened in real life. Whole bunch of stuff. There's specific pieces for every single episode, 2 for the movie, and then 5 bonus ones that you are not going to find on the internet, on the web version. They're book exclusive.
Yay!
So you should pick that up. It's a good book.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a big book. I've heard it's Al torso sized.
It is Al torso sized. We have photographic proof.
It's very big. So you could buy a physical copy for $9 because 9 members.
Yep.
Or you could buy a Kindle version, an ebook for $4.50 because that's half of that. So that seems fair. I don't know. Numbers. So yeah, buy the book. It's good. Thumbs up.
Yay.
You can find more from Ann Ladium at annladium.com. She's got columns and reviews.
Hey, I also have another book coming out on October 12th, which is Monday after this. Yay.
Oh, then we should definitely promote that.
Yeah, my book that I've been working on for
Al has 2 books out.
literal years is coming out October 12th.
That sounds insane.
Yeah, it is called Hot Tubs and Pac-Man. It is also available on Amazon. I don't expect many people to buy it because it is very expensive.
It is an academic book.
It is an academic book. It is basically culmination of my research from my master's and my PhD, and then some post dissertation stuff that I've done. So I've been working on this for many, many years at this point, and it will be out on October 12th, and you can buy it on the internet.
I know, I had very similar, experiences of, oh, I cannot believe this is a thing that people can buy.
Yeah. I'm
assuming those are going to be your thoughts come, Monday, when you're I cannot believe this is the thing people can buy.
Yeah.
So, that, there's definitely going to be a nervousness to you, but also, I think, an excitement that, oh, this is out here now. It's
I'm
out
also
there.
terrified because I know that, they've asked me for names for reviewers. I'm ah!
Yeah. Understandable. I've read, I don't know, I don't remember the version that I read. I think I read the dissertation version, so I don't know how current that version is, but I remember really enjoying what I read from what Al wrote and everything, the story she tells and everything. It's very interesting because, that early part of the video game industry is just a wild, wild time full of just weird stuff that happens. And I think Al does a good job of just explaining, the ins and outs of companies and people and games and just mashing all that together to form a cohesive narrative and all that sort of stuff. So
thank you.
You should definitely pick it up if you have the means to do so.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing, but it's I think it'll be well worth your time if you're interested in that sort of stuff. But yeah.
If you have access to a university library, you could also just check it out.
Yeah, that too. I think that would be the way to do it. So yeah, there's that. We have our book. You have your book. Big book month.
Big book month.
October, the month of books. Whoa, hit my mic.
Weird.
It's wild. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. I'm proud of you.
Okay. So yeah, buy both of our books. Coming out, one's out, one will be out this Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Buy both of them on Amazon.
Yay.
I don't know where we're at in the wrap up. Twitter.
Twitter.
You can follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/anime checkup. It's where we do the Twitters. And then you can also support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza. Get access to unedited versions of the podcast, bonus episodes, all that fun stuff. We have to record a Patreon podcast at some point.
We have a plan.
I know. Things have been very busy over the last couple of weeks, so
You think?
Yeah, so I wanted to put that out there, just keep it in my mind, especially when I come back and edit this and be like, oh yeah, we gotta do that.
Okay.
Next week, it's episode 199, the penultimate episode to episode 200. I think that is the appropriate time to bring out the grab bag before we hit 200. Nice. Because there's some games we got to talk about.
Yep.
We got that JoJo game.
Yep.
There's that Super Mario Brothers 35 that I'm still not sure what I think about that game. And there's probably some other stuff as well we can talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So let's pencil that in for next week. And then in 2 weeks, we will reconvene for episode 200.
Holy moly.
And we'll have something for you, I guess. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows?
Who knows?